Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job's just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome back to What's Up Waco, the podcast that loves to introduce you to the people, the places, and the properties that make Waco an excellent community to live. Hey everybody, welcome back to What's Up Waco with Erica Boisvert, your local real estate agent. And today my guest is Brad Showalter of Pure Solar. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Welcome.
Welcome. You can welcome me to my show. I'm down with it. We're in a different room, so I'll take it.
Well, is it Welcome Waco?
It's What's Up Waco.
What's up, Waco?
What's up, Waco?
Yeah.
That's what's up. And that's it. That's our show. Thanks for coming in.
All right. Have a good day.
So fun fact, Brad and I have known each other for a few years.
Yeah. At least probably 3.
Yeah, like 3. Okay. And Brad works for solar, which, as some of you know, maybe real estate agents in solar don't always get along. And I think when I first moved here, I didn't understand why. I was like, what is the big deal? Like, this is so easy. Why is it so hard here in Texas? And then I've been on this Texas side of real estate now, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. And then I made this reel like a week ago. I don't know if I shared it with you, and it was kind of anti-solar. And I didn't mean it to be. I meant it to be anti if you were planning on moving like in 5 years. And we'll get into that because I know you have ways to mitigate that. But it just blew up. It had like 75,000 views. It had like 200 comments. I was just blown away. And it was about half and half. Like, people were really happy with the solar they have, and people who were like not happy and could understand my point of resale, which was my main point. But you have ways to handle that, which I wish were more widely known here. So help me out. Like, what's like in a quick breakdown of how much you enjoy solar and what you do? What would you tell me if we were just meeting?
And you were selling a house, buying a house, considering installing solar?
Maybe considering installing. Let's start there and help people get like an idea.
It's the most common conversation I have. Right?
I'm sure.
So first things first, Texas is the fastest growing state.
Yeah.
You know that from your side.
I feel that.
It's also the fastest growing state for renewable energy,
okay,
including residential solar. And my work is not slowing down.
Okay.
At all.
Okay.
In fact, in the last 3 months, I have had more appointments than almost any other quarter in the last 3.5 years.
Wow.
So just one other quarter beat that for me.
So do you attribute that to the growth or to your like being around longer, or both?
I attribute it to the cost of electricity in Texas over double in the last 4 years, from 9 cents
painful.
all in to 18.5 cents all in now if you're shopping around. And what most people consider to be a quote unquote free market of energy in Texas is not so free if they really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think some people are quite literally unable to pay their highest bills of the year.
Yeah.
And so that's
hard.
either 3 to 5 months, depending on if you have an electric heater or gas.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all that because the thing I love about us doing this podcast is we live in the same community.
We do.
I am 43 with gray in my beard and a 4-year-old, so I am tired.
Yep.
I go to Glory Bell Church. And I'm a husband and a father.
Yep.
And so when I walk into homes, it's all I get seen as is a salesman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, it's kind of like, yes, and I know you have a family, and I know that there could be a problem here in terms of paying the bills. And I know that what I'm about to talk about can be a solution for you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the approach I typically take. And I would say, even though I've sat almost more appointments than any other quarter, I've also had more families cancel after our conversation than ever
Really?
before. And the vast majority spoke to a realtor or someone who's in real estate who also had the same opinion that you have had on that reel, and many other realtors screaming into Instagram, which just kind of makes me laugh, to be honest with you.
It's fair. It's okay. We're here to be open-minded and
Yeah.
chat.
Exactly. And so the whole point of me going on that diatribe is this.
Yeah.
We live in the same community.
Yep.
Community means coming together. And so I can now see where your job has become more complicated by the thing I'm doing. And I'm not doing any less of it. And I'm not getting any worse at it.
No.
So solar's still
No,
going
not
to
at all.
keep coming.
And not only that, like we left our conversation and I was like, oh yeah, this is why I didn't have problems with it when I first moved here. But then,
Yeah.
I think it was the next day, I had an agent say, oh, they went to show one of my properties that we have listed and they said, love the house, love the location. The solar is a huge negative. And I'm like, oh, can you let me introduce you to Brad Schultz. I'll tell you after who the agent was, but I'm like, give him a call, chat him up. And he's like, nah, we're going to keep looking. I'm like, okay, well, okay.
Yeah. Long-winded way to get to the answer to your original question, which is this.
And me interrupting.
No. The seller doesn't want to pay it off.
They don't.
I wouldn't. And you shouldn't, because none of us are going to call our power provider today and prepay electricity for the next 5 to 10 to 15 to 20, 25 years. Okay.
Right.
So that's just not what's expected. And then most buyers don't want to take the lump sum of whatever's remaining on that system and put it into the sale price, right?
Right.
Because they don't want to pre-purchase 5 to 10 to 15, 20, 25
Right.
years. So there is kind of this middle ground that most realtors either don't know about, probably just don't know about.
Probably.
Yeah. And it's called a simple transfer.
Well, and I think you'd have to have spoken with a solar loan company like Good Leap or somebody who does this
Correct.
to really know, like, oh, here's how it happens. And it's all concurrent on closing day, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you know those things and how it doesn't affect DTI or viability of the loan,
Correct.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
But, it's like this weird stigma here of not wanting to take it on.
Yeah. And so once people know about the simple transfer, and now granted, everything I'm going to say from this point forward is my experience with my company, Pure Energy, and the lenders. If people are looking into an ownership option, there are lenders we work with and compare you with who allow a simple transfer. And the way it looks, and there's an order of operation to this that doesn't affect the sale of the home. So it's very specific.
Yes.
Number one, a home buyer is going to be pre-approved for a mortgage, right? A mortgage lender is going to say you're approved for X number of thousands of dollars to purchase a home. And once they receive that pre-approval, they can go buy a house. Then once they're shopping around, usually you're going to find pictures of a home that have solar prior to ever just showing up, usually.
Yeah.
And so if you see those pictures and you're like, hey, I still want to consider the home, you consider the home. If you get to the point where you're ready to make an offer or even get to a closing table, what you would then do is find out who that lender is. You contact them directly and say, I'm going to be purchasing this home and the estimate closing date is. And then they will send you an application to apply for whatever's remaining on that system. Now, that lender knows you're pre-approved for a home, but when they pull a quick public record that doesn't impact your credit score, that's key.
Yeah, that is huge.
Because you cannot have something hit your credit score while you've been
buying.
pre-approved. So it does not. It's considered a utility check. Because I think what people are forgetting in this is we're not talking about a want. We're not talking about a house, a car, or a boat.
Okay.
We're literally talking about a need. It's your electricity. And I think that really gets lost in the conversation.
That's fair. I think it does.
If you don't do solar, if you don't have solar, next month when they send you an electricity bill, you have to pay it. And how much do you pay? Whatever they tell you to pay.
The price. Yeah.
However, with solar, it would be a fixed price as long as you're living in the house. So if you really wrap your head around this, right? Your house makes its own power. and the price you're paying monthly never goes up. So if you are purchasing a house that makes its own power at a fixed price, year after year after year, as the cost of electricity rises, there is some value that's been added to that home.
Agree.
Okay.
And I've always kind of thought of that as like an intrinsic value. It's hard because you can't really put it on paper for a mortgage lender.
Correct.
Or for an appraiser.
Okay. And then
You know
gets
what I
back to
mean?
the timeline, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now the buyer is applying with that lender for the solar, and the lender for the solar doesn't penalize them for their pre-approval.
Right.
Because they haven't actually purchased the home yet. So there's no impact to the debt to income ratio. And so if they've been approved for what's the average around here? 250, 300,000, 400, 500 nowadays. Who knows?
Lately.
They will be approved for whatever's remaining on that system, which is going to be significantly less than that amount. And so they receive their approval. And then what's going to happen is they'll receive a letter that says this family has been approved to take over a monthly payment for the solar after the closing date.
Okay.
And because there's been no hit to their credit score and there's no actual debt incurred prior to the purchase of the home, there's no impact to the debt to income ratio. And then the final key and biggest myth I hear, well, at least with the lenders we use, is there is no lien on the home.
Yes, that's huge.
There is no lien on the home.
And I think sometimes
It's on the
that
system
gets
itself.
buried in the contract if it has a UCC lien on the property. But that comes up in your commitment. So when you're running like the title commitment search, that'll come up. And so if that's something you need to deal with, you can deal with it at that point.
It does. And the paperwork that's given back from the solar lender that says we have approved this family, it basically releases that from the property if that is going to be the homeowner.
Okay.
So after all the docs are signed, or actually that paperwork will be submitted in with the docs, but it's already been pre-approved and signed by both the seller and the buyer of the solar, so to speak. Then as soon as the deed is transferred over to the new homeowner, then so is the solar.
Okay. And so one of the things I think that sticks out is like when you say, oh, it'll be an average payment, because, I'm thinking, and I'm sure other people listening are like, well, I already pay, my average. Reliant gives. You can have your average for the year. But then next year or the year after, those rates could change. And then you got to bounce over to another electric company and get their lowest new contract offer, which is still probably going to be higher than the lowest you got at the previous. I mean, so what you're saying is electricity is constantly going to go up, but solar panels kind of handle that for you because they won't. So when you buy your panels and you work out all the numbers of what people's usage looks like,
correct,
that's just what they're going to use over time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Everything in demand goes up. Everything in demand goes up over time.
Right.
That's inflation. And that's no different for the cost of electricity in Texas. So on average, if you look back 25 years ago, and I'll always use 25 because that's the warranty given on a solar system.
Okay.
We were all in at about 5 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm going to say it again, 5 cents, because if you have gone shopping for your power in the last year, it is not that. And it is a lot more.
It is not that.
And so that's just the easiest way to understand. None of us can wrap our heads around, would it be 30 cents? But let me ask you, can you wrap your head around 30 cents a kilowatt hour?
No. But on the flip side, I can't wrap my head around the house prices now versus 10 years ago. So it's this, like you said, inflation. It's all of it.
Yeah. And I asked you specifically about the kilowatt hour because where'd you move from?
California.
I can't believe you admit that.
Oh, I don't like to talk about it all the time. I can't believe you admitted that. I can't believe you set me up, Brad.
What were you paying in California before you left? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh. Like per kilowatt didn't matter to me because we couldn't shop around.
Yeah.
So I just know that like in the summer we would get about a $650 bill.
Yeah.
Because we were running our air all the time. We had gas though too, which I miss.
Waco has some gas.
Some parts of Waco have gas. Some, and you can get propane, whatever. But I didn't have that choice, so I never paid attention.
Yeah.
What was I going to do?
And even though they're shopping around, we don't actually have a choice either.
No, you're right.
Here's the kicker most people don't also know. So in California, they're already at 30, sometimes 40 cents, depending on the time of day. Okay,
well,
that's something that we
so
haven't moved to in Texas.
Thank gosh.
However, a few years back, Encore was purchased by a California company. And when that California company arrived and we were all paying 9 cents, and then they looked at what they were able to charge in California, they said, there's a really big gap between these two numbers that I bet if we started to close it, people really can't do anything about it.
That's rude.
So to bring us back to the original point, if you had purchased your solar 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been sold at about 9 or 10 cents a
Okay.
kilowatt hour. And that's a fixed payment monthly as long as you live in the house. Nowadays, everybody in Texas is shopping around, but after delivery, we're at 18.5 cents.
Mm.
So you'd be at almost half the cost of what everybody's paying today. Now, if you go shopping for solar today, guess about how much you're going to be paying per kilowatt hour.
17 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah, I will. If we use
Like,
the
did you tell
correct
me that
sides
the
of the
other day?
roof, and we are doing the most efficient system for the home, which is the appropriate way to do it. I am typically selling between 15 and 17 cents a kilowatt hour right now,
Okay.
which is less than the average people are paying,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't go up.
And it won't go up ever. Like, it's way different than the annual average billing cycle. It is.
The easiest way to
20
understand it,
years.
and speaking to a real estate agent or anybody shopping for a home, is when you buy your home, most people do get a fixed mortgage, correct?
Yes.
Most, I'm hoping.
The mortgage. Yes.
Yes. So does your mortgage payment go up? The mortgage part.
No.
Ah,
I'm like, no.
Got to clarify.
Yes. You have to be very clear. The mortgage part does not change. You're right.
And that is the same. So we're talking about, with solar, what we're talking about is the difference between renting and owning.
Okay.
Same thing as a property.
Sure.
You can go out and rent a property. What's your landlord going to do with the rent next year?
Whatever they want.
Correct.
There is no rent control in Texas.
Your landlord is Encore. Your landlord is list the 134 power providers you can choose from. That's your landlord for electricity, and they will raise your rent.
Mm-hmm.
If you get solar, you're making your home the power producer, at least during the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you own your power, and that's why it's fixed and never goes up.
Okay. So to that point, you know that I shared with you my husband's kind of like one, like, is that you can't be truly off grid. You still need to be plugged in. So when you're saying, like, when you're talking about the fees and how that part of the payment won't change, your access payment could change, right? If they charge a different monthly fee for access.
Yeah, so let's have a distinction on like off grid.
I don't know
that's
the
my
right.
favorite. Let me tell you, and this is, if you can't see my face, this is sarcasm.
He's
My
being,
favorite
just in case this is
conversation to
audio,
have.
he just rolled his eyes at me.
Off grid. I tell you, I walk into homes all the time. They're just like, I want it all. You know, I want my independence. I'm a Texan. You're not taking my stuff.
I mean,
No. Seriously though, I walk in. Sometimes people are like, "Yeah, I just want to be off grid,"
yeah.
and I'm
You're
like,
can't.
"Yeah, well, not within the city limits of anywhere in Texas."
Hmm.
It's just like not going to be allowed per se, but
Sure.
you can utilize technology to quote unquote get off grid. So, and I'll be honest with you, it's not very accessible to most people.
Okay.
It's very
Accessible
expensive.
because of cost. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to ask.
So, the barrier to entry for off grid, quote unquote, is incredibly high. The barrier to entry for solar, just solar alone, is incredibly low. Most people think it's very expensive, and it's not. My job is to make sure the solar is less than what you're paying today and
Okay.
doesn't go up long term. But when we talk about off grid, now we're getting into a battery backup situation or technology.
Mhm.
And if you want to back up every appliance in your home, including your HVAC and every outlet, every light switch, light fixture in the home, you're talking about a massive amount of storage that's required to run your home after sunset.
Yep.
Because during the day, the house is going to make power.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to use that power and not pull from the grid
Mm-hmm.
unless it's cloudy or
I was
rainy
gonna say, what about
or
cloudy
snowy.
days? Okay.
Yeah, then you're pulling. But if you have enough battery storage, it'll automatically switch over and just pull from the battery. So therefore, you're never pulling from the grid.
Okay.
But to put a ballpark on that, the average family uses 14,000 kilowatt hours in a year. Their average bill at this point is $245 a month on that. Okay. That's the average payment.
I wish. Okay.
Are you a lot higher than that?
Yeah. Remember we talked about it.
Paying
You're
up
like,
the
how
whole
is it that
house.
high?
Yeah.
How big is your house?
If you were to do what I would suggest, which is just 2/3 of your power typically gets your daytime, your bill will come in at about 2/3 of that and be fixed.
Mm.
If you wanted to do whole home backup or get off the grid. You're going to have 4 to 6 batteries, depending upon how many AC units you have, or pool, or hot tubs, or I don't know your house.
Barns, stable.
Even more to the point, right? Lots of property.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
and so how much are those batteries?
Man, a lot.
A lot.
You know? And then we get into, yeah, right. I can reveal it. Here's the thing. I lost a deal the other day. Family researched online, your best place to go find everything.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, it's half of what you quoted me. I'm like, yeah, because you're looking at a cash price. I didn't ask you to pay cash. Who's paying cash? Yeah. Why would you pay cash?
No.
You're not going to call Reliant or TXU and say, I would like to prepay my electricity for 25 years. Why would you do it? You can, and it's been very few people who have.
Okay.
But I'll ballpark it for you. Whole home backup, a little bit above average family, 6 batteries. Yeah, this is tough.
Because you don't want to scare people with the amount, or tough because there's
no, it's
so
tough
many variables?
Because, okay, every home is different.
Sure.
Solar comes down to 3 things, and it doesn't work everywhere. I'm going to be honest with you. It does not work. My job is to actually get in, listen to the family, hear what they need, identify how much power do they use, how much roof space do they have, an uninhibited roof space. I mean, you have plumbing vents and turtle ducts, and I might not be able to fit enough panels.
Okay.
And then if I could fit enough panels, what direction are they facing?
Fair.
Because south is the best. Southwest, southeast, west, east, maybe. But anything that starts to tilt towards north, you lose so much efficiency. And when I say efficiency, just think cost effectiveness.
Sun on your home.
We might not be able to get all of your power.
Okay.
But let's say we got 60% and you wanted to add the batteries to cover the rest and run your whole home. $100,000 financed out over 25 years.
Yuck.
It sounds yuck. But then if you're using that kind of power, what's, $300, $400 a month is almost $5,000 times 25. That's $125,000.
Okay.
So I can get your whole home backup for the same price you're going to spend.
Anyway,
if you could fix your bill today.
I would say plus panels, right? So you're probably a wash at that point.
For what you're doing today. But that doesn't include the cost escalation over time. So if you're already spending a minimum of $125,000, people don't think about our electricity in big numbers. If you're paying $300 a month, or let's say $400 a month, you're spending $4,800 a year right now, and you can't fix the price.
No.
So if you did $4,800 times 25 years, it's over $125,000 you're already spending, not counting the cost escalation. So it's actually going to come in more like you're already in for $270,000 of electricity. So if I get you a whole home backup today for $120,000, financed out over 25 years,
it's nothing.
It's still less than what you'd be doing in that period of time for electricity alone.
Shoot. Now I'm like, man, I hope Scott doesn't listen to this.
You think he's going to get whole
He's
home
going to be
backup?
Like, ooh. Well, I don't know, because our situation, we've got big family, animals, all the things, acreage. So, I hope not.
Yeah, let's get clear
let's
too.
do it.
Whole home backup is a luxury. Before I talked about a need, not a want. Electricity is the need. You're going to pay for that regardless.
Right.
Whole home backup becomes more of a luxury conversation. So when I'm saying 100 to 120,000, man, that's a luxury conversation. That's not what solar typically will cost.
No, yeah. So let's be clear. This is a whole other angle, whole other subset of people who are like, no, I just want to be on, leave me alone. I just want to be out here on my own. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he would be like, oh, I don't know, maybe that makes sense. It's a luxury, but then maybe not. But then, okay, here's my question. You get the whole home, you end up with 6 batteries, whatever. How many days does that last? Because snowpocalypse left people without electricity for, we'll have a generator, but it left people without for a long time. Days.
Yeah. So I have an
that?
estimator I use in the home with the family. We talk about every item they would want connected to it.
Sure.
And it kind of estimates for us how many hours you would get to run all of those items at one time.
Okay.
And how many days it would last. But then the thing is, the next day, if the sun comes up tomorrow and is not cloudy or rainy, the batteries will recharge. So it just kind of resets.
That's fair because even when we were frozen, there were sunny days.
Right.
We were just hoping it would melt everything a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And like when you go to the beach on a cloudy day,
Mm-hmm.
you can still get sunburned.
Oh, badly.
Just not as intensely. Right. So that's why, we're in it. We're also right now, we are in a conversation where I have literally done one whole home backup of the 385 systems I've ever sold.
Sure,
in the last 3
sure.
years.
Well, and I don't want to distract people with I know there is a small subset of people who are like, what's the point of solar if you can't go off grid? But you're saying, well, the point is to save money.
A lot of money.
Over 25, 30 years as opposed to a little bit here and a little bit there.
Basically, the easiest way for me to explain solar is, and most people do a monthly payment. So it's half price electricity for the next 3 decades if you do solar today.
Well, and I can see that. Even when I am selling homes, one of the things I supply agents with is this is their electric bills for the summer before they put solar on. And here's what they're paying now, plus the monthly payment for the solar. It's still less than what they were paying. And so for me, it's just frustrating because I think people don't understand. But unfortunately, that feels like the permeating thought here is that why would I want to do that when I can go get that house and it doesn't have it? And I don't have to take on a whole other loan. I don't know what the pushback is.
Well, it's just because we don't think about our electricity in big numbers.
No, you're right.
It's something most people auto pay and they're just like, well, I have to pay it anyway. But it's like, if you actually think about it and say, right now I'm averaging $300 a month. And if I did the solar to make 2/3 of that and it came in at 180, that's less than 200, which would be 2/3 of that. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, if that part can be fixed and it doesn't go up long-term, I'm going to save money, and we just don't think of it that way.
No, I like that. And I do want to come back to the fact that you are part of this community, because I think also if people think back to, especially China Spring people, that storm we just had, and all these roofers came out of the woodworks from Houston, from the Panhandle, from Oklahoma, and they just wanted to come in and tell you they'd do all this great. And then, they're fly by night and out of here and didn't do what they promised, which is why we recommended a local company that we work with all the time. Because you can try, I just feel like, and that's the whole point of the show is local. I just feel like there's a lot more trust. Like, I know where you live. Like, hey,
you do.
I do. Brad, this isn't working. Like, what the heck?
Right.
And so I like that aspect of it. You're not fly by night. And you've been doing this for a while. It's not something that you're like, I'm just going to give this a shot. You, I think, really believe in what you're doing and trying to find solutions for families.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah. There's a couple of angles we can take off of this. So one, there are fly-by-night solar companies.
There are.
It's kind of the wild, wild west.
That's kind of why I was making like that.
Yeah.
That analogy with the Texas roofers.
There's, there aren't a whole lot of regulation in the industry. I do believe there should be, to be honest with you. We see a lot of sales teams. They are literally just sales teams. They're from Utah, California, Colorado, Arizona. I like those states. I've traveled there. They're fun to go visit.
I'm from two.
But it's not fun to have somebody just fly in, spend a week, and try to tear through our community and sell just to sell.
Yes.
Because then they go home to the beach or the mountains and kick it. And then they just send your project off to another company or two. And then if anything happens down the line, who do you try to call first? Well, it's the person you met. And guess what they say if they answer the phone? Well, I'm on the beach.
They're not connected to it.
We didn't do that project. You have to call this and you get bounced around.
There's no accountability.
Right. Our office is on Washington and 11th. The install team's behind the Whataburger on Highway 6 and Waco Drive. Okay.
Oh, y'all are back there by like college hunks?
Yeah. You know where the big toy soldier is?
Yeah,
the tin soldier?
Yes.
We're right underneath that.
Okay.
Basically.
Very cool.
And when I go to a home, a lot of times I'm meeting with someone I've met or seen. I'll run into you at HEB. Yeah. If I don't do the right thing for you, I'm not going to be in business very long. No. I'm not going to have a community any longer.
No.
Right.
Waco's teeny tiny. People don't understand how small, like 150,000 people or whatever. Waco is tiny. Everybody knows everybody.
Which I like. It's part of the reason we moved here.
Same. That is one of the things I do love. I don't love the heat of the summer. But I do love that when I go to Target, I'm probably going to run into one or two people that I know. HEB, like all of that. It is a small town feel.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and even more so, like I didn't grow up wanting to sell solar. Let's get that clear. I didn't move my family to sell solar.
Right.
I moved here to work at Magnolia, and that'll be received one way or the other on the
I
podcast
know.
too.
Well,
Which
I
loved
so
it.
did I. So I can't really.
Yeah.
Have we not talked about that?
I don't think so.
Yeah. We can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved here to work in people development, people operations, work at the market, work at HQ, and do employee relationship development and training. And I had my dream job.
Yeah. And then kaboom.
Pandemic.
Yeah. I know.
You know?
So sorry. I know. It was a really cool concept. I will say that about the company.
Yeah, and it's still a good company, I'm
Yeah.
sure. I had
I'm
a great
sure.
experience and met a lot of wonderful people. And then
Yes.
pandemic happens, we all get shut down, everybody gets trapped inside, right? Well, if nobody's traveling, and most of the business for Magnolia is tourists,
Yeah.
we laid off a lot of people.
Yeah.
About 600. I was one of those. And so a year later, coming out of it, what I had was an offer to continue to train and develop employees at a company that sells solar. And then it turns out, once I learned how it worked, my background's in education. I'm a master's degree in education. It just became about teaching. And so when I'm in a home, I'm with a family, like I have a family, and I'm teaching.
Yeah.
And if people understand how it works, the numbers typically do make sense.
Sure.
And so
Well,
it's been fun.
Well, good.
I've helped a lot of people.
I think that's awesome. And I think that not only do the numbers make sense, but if they know that applying for the loan for the solar won't go against their mortgage loan application or hit their DTI or ruin the option of buying that home.
Correct.
Or that it won't lower their purchase price amount, right? Because some people are like, well, if I want a $350,000 house, but the solar's $45,000, now I have to look at a $305,000 house. No.
Right. Good.
You know what I mean? So
Great
you can
distinction.
still look at that and just know that you'll have that solar payment as well. So, I mean, I got to say, I love what you're saying, but for me, I am still running into, maybe it's shows like this will help. I don't know. But for me, I'm still running into people who are just like, no, we're going to keep looking.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. There's nothing more beyond stuff like this and conversations that we can do.
Yeah. So here's the deal. That's just where we are today.
Yeah.
It'll hit a tipping point. I mean, Texas is the fastest growing state for solar, period. So, and that's 2 years running.
Okay.
And again, my business is not slowing down and I'm not getting anywhere. So we will continue to put solar on homes.
Sure.
Until the point that becomes way more normal. And people are just like, oh yeah, another home is solar. Oh, that's probably a good thing. I'm going to pay electricity anyway. I bet you that's going to be lower. I mean, that'll just start to happen.
Yeah. And that's kind of the conversations. And I've tried to have those here, but in California where I used to sell, that was it. I just had the electric bills out. Here you go. Take a look. Welcome to the open house. Read the electric bill. Here's what's left. Okay, bye.
Yeah. And to your point, you said this twice too, and I'll make sure it's clear. You buy the house. It doesn't get interrupted by the other one. You just pick up the payment. It's not a new payment. It's not like a new bill. That has to be a distinction. Because I do think people are, well, I don't want another payment. But it's not another payment. It's one you're already going to make. It's just less than what you would have paid.
And you're already making that utility payment. So if the solar panel plus the electricity is less than what you already projected or budgeted to make, then you're golden.
Yeah, and I would almost not argue with, but like propose to a mortgage lender, it's not even an additional debt in that regard. Because if it's less than what they would be paying for the other way, call it an income. Why don't we increase the or decrease the DTI when we're considering
right?
it?
I mean,
although those two things don't clash in the timeline, so it doesn't even matter. There's no lien on the home, so the mortgage lender shouldn't care. They can't take the home; they can take the system. But they can't take the home, so it doesn't clash. It is one piece of paper that both the buyer and seller sign, and then just slides right in. And as soon as the deed is done, it switches over.
Okay. Well, I love the way you present it. I love the way you break down the numbers. And I think it really adds a different perspective, which is great. I'm going to keep doing my part. I mean, people need to sell their homes. So I'm not going to be like, no, you have solar panels. I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
And I want to do my part too. So anybody listening, my name is Brad Showalter with Pure Energy. It is here locally. I will sit in with your buyer and buying agent. I'll sit with the seller first to understand the system specs. I will then explain it from an expert perspective on what the value is remaining on that solar system, and just be a third party, no interest other than helping this to become smoother for all of our real estate agents in town, anybody moving to Waco or just moving around within Waco, making it as easy as possible, as easy as I know it can be. And then I think the narrative can shift.
I think so. And I think if you've shown any of our properties and that was feedback your clients have given, give Brad a call. I'd appreciate it. Our sellers would love it. And I think there is some benefit to it for sure, especially when you look long term.
Yeah.
All right. Did we miss anything?
That's it. I'm having fun.
See, I told you it's not bad at all.
Let's just pick up with, you moved here from Magnolia.
Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for now, everybody, thanks for listening. And that's what's up, Waco.
Have a topic you want to talk about? Do you have questions about Waco, the real estate market, how to sell your house, what to look for when you're buying a home? Send me an email, ericasellstexas@gmail.com. Shoot me a text, 254-447-0180. Happy to chat about it. Find me anywhere you listen to your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.